At the turnaround today on Lee Canyon Road in the Mount Charleston Wilderness. And we are going to head up to the summit area of Kyle Canyon, which is right up in this area. It's the ridge between Kyle Canyon and Lee Canyon. And from there, possibly head toward Mummy Mountain. There you see part of Mummy's head. We'd be on the main summit of Mummy rather than get to the head. That's another adventure. But for now, the challenge is get up to this ridge right up here from Lee Canyon. And we're going to go through the Foxtail group picnic area and take a little road beyond that becomes a very narrow forest road. There's an abandoned Girl Scouts camp. Pass through all of that and then end up on the ridge heading to the summit of that ridge, the upper ridge of Kyle Canyon, Lee Canyon. So here we go. By the way, as we approach the Foxtail group picnic area, just a quick note, if you're planning on having a picnic here, there are no walk-ins. So you can't just park and then walk in and have a picnic. You need reservations. So it's a beautiful area, but plan ahead. And by the way, right across from the Foxtail picnic area, there you see the South Sister and the North Sister. So far we have video for summiting the South Sister. Soon we'll have that North Sister video. We do have the Black Rock Sister, which is to the right or north of the North Sister. So yeah, you can check those out on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Anyway, let's go ahead and enter the Foxtail group picnic area and beyond. Now we're in the Foxtail picnic area, and I gotta say, this is a very well maintained area. Wow. So yeah, if you're into picnicking, get a reservation. And you're in the shadow of Mummy's Head. What a beautiful area this is. Very quiet at this time. It's the second Saturday in June. I mean, in July. Second Saturday in July, and it's about 6:45 in the morning. Okay, we're at the top of the Foxtail picnic area now, and you see there's a little turnaround here, and we are now entering an area, Camp Foxtail Organizational Camp. And to my knowledge, last time I was here, it was all abandoned. We'll see. If not, it'll be a short trip and we'll need to divert up this ridge to the right to continue on. But it looks to me like, yeah, things are still pretty well abandoned up in this area. There you're looking again at Mummy's Head. South Sister through the trees. Here we go. Get an idea of our goal. We want to be right up in that area where you see the sun shining on that ridge. When we reach that point, we're almost at the the juncture of the main Mummy Mountain Summit Trail. We just take a left up there and we'll soon be on that trail. So let's see if we can get up there. Here we are at Camp Foxtail, an abandoned Girl Scouts of Southern Nevada camp. See a main building up there. It's their dining hall. A maintenance building. And one of the, I guess a meeting place or cabin structure. What's the story behind this? Well, I was up here a couple of years ago, and at that time I knew nothing about it. I did some research since then, and this camp was closed down due to some rules as far as water quality. I think it was going to cost something like between $1 and $2 million to renovate this camp and to bring it up to standards as far as water quality. And I think it was just too much. And so the camp was closed down a few years ago now, and has never been opened up again. Anyway, yeah, this is what you would call a very modern ghost town. And I imagine it may be used for other purposes now. I don't know. But at this point, 7 o'clock in the morning, it looks pretty much abandoned. Well, and guess what I just noticed? Over the hill here, you can just barely see the tip of a green water reservoir. And that reservoir marks another route up to Kyle Canyon from Lee Canyon. We were there last week. I call it the gradual ridge route, and it begins at that water tower, heads up this ridge here, and continues on up to hit the North Loop Trail just a couple miles below Lee Peak. So if you're heading to Lee Peak, yeah, you want to be on this ridge here, and you just head up. It's a gradual ridge. It's amazing, beautiful area. And so you can check that out on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, the gradual ridge from Lee to Kyle Canyon. This is another route, which is going to be the Foxtail Canyon route, and have not been up to the summit from here yet, but yeah, if we can make the summit of the high ridge up ahead, then this will open up another possibility. And this route would be the route to take if you're heading not to Lee Peak, but to the summit of Mummy Mountain, which is above those cliffs up ahead. And we'll get a closer look as we continue to ascend this route. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, if you ever attended Camp Foxtail, you're probably familiar with Hudlow Hall, which is the main dining hall here. And this is the main parking area at the entrance where most people would probably arrive. And there up ahead is a little stairway that leads to that ridge that I was talking about earlier. That gradual ridge will take you all the way up to the upper North Loop Trail for upper Mount Charleston North Loop Trail, and you can see the ridge rising above Hudlow Hall. So yeah, and it looks like there were probably excursions that went up this ridge when this camp was in operation. And then you see one of the cabins here, and you would be familiar probably with the various signs here, or locations, different cottages and huts. Chipnut Dale Camp, many others. So anyway, yeah, we're gonna continue heading up. I think we're gonna go this way. I think this is the main route upward. So here we go. And just to give an idea where we are, here's another 360-degree view. Wow, look at that view of the South Sister to the left, North Sister to the right. This is an extremely beautiful area up here. What a great place to have a camp. So camp goers can probably remember walking this very pathway. One thing about this approach to the upper ridge of Kyle Canyon is that it's very gradual. Now it gets a little sketchy up a ways beyond a beautiful spring that I'm calling Foxtail Canyon Springs, but maybe it's got another name. We'll pass that area. We took some video up at the spring. There's a little cave, water dripping down from above. Very beautiful. A little shrine that appears the Girl Scouts created at one time with little hanging ornaments. And they were still there a couple of years ago. We may not get to the spring this time, but you can see the video on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Looks like we have a wash facility. Maybe this is where they took showers. Who knows? The residents would know. Yeah, it's called Fawntown Bath. So definitely, there you have it. There's the bath. And then through the trees, that gradual ridge that I spoke of earlier that we ascended a week ago. Can't see much of it from this perspective, but we'll get a better view as we rise up. Yeah, some of these structures here, we don't know what they were, but definitely something that was well used in its day. Looks like we've got some platforms up ahead. Who knows what these were for? Open camping maybe, or maybe different groups would meet here when everyone gathered for a morning ceremony. Keep the group spirit among each of the groups. We don't know. Everything's just a guess. Continuing on up. And by the way, yeah, here's a quick 360. There's the Mummy's Head area through the trees. our goal is up ahead. And I remember that gradual ridge where I said on the east side, the northeast side, there was a sheer cliff. There is the sheer cliff. We were on the other side of that cliff, working our way upward. And the road continues past the camp. Now it looks like it's a narrowing Forest Service road as we continue to rise. There's that ridge, a gradual ridge that we took earlier. And here's the road. And then looking toward Mummy's Head. And continuing on up. And as I mentioned, yeah, you really gain a lot of altitude very gradually on this route. So it is a very nice route up to the summit of the ridge between Lee Canyon and Kyle Canyon. Depending on how things are above, we haven't been all the way up before. We'll see. Continuing on up this road, but I just wanted to make a note that here's a split off road. And I believe, based on my gut feeling and having been in this basic area before, this might be a good connector to another canyon that leads up to the summit area. And we've been on that other canyon. We accessed it through Avalanche Trail Road, just about a mile above the intersection of Deer Creek Road and Lee Canyon Road. And I think we were right in this area up ahead. And you can see, I believe that's the main summit of Mummy Mountain. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, things are all coming together here. And up ahead here is that upper ridge. When you're standing up there, you're looking down on Kyle Canyon and across to Charleston Peak, and then in this direction down on Lee Canyon. And our goal is to get up there, up at that point. And then again, here is that gradual ridge. It doesn't look too gradual from this perspective, but when you're up there, just on the other side of those cliffs, there is a really beautiful gradual approach that you can see on Las Vegas area trails. We were just there last week, and yeah, what a beautiful approach to the upper North Loop Trail for Mount Charleston. Okay, but let's see how this approach works. And now we can see things opening up here, so we'll get a much better perspective in just a moment. But you can see where approximately we will summit the upper ridge above, if we make it that far. Still don't know exactly what things are going to look like as we get close to the top there. But from the gradual approach ridge that I took last week, looking down on this area, and you can see some really good shots from above on this ridge up here, looking down on this whole approach area. It looked very doable, but as you probably know, when you get closer, things can look a lot different, and there'd be a few barriers that you had not anticipated. But yes, making a lot of altitude ascent in a very gradual way here. Okay, we're at the point now where the road dramatically narrows. Some interesting things. There you see the North Sister on the left, Black Rock Sister on the right. We've been up to Black Rock Sister. We haven't yet done the North Sister. And here's where the road becomes, if you were even able to get through the gates with your four-wheel drive vehicle, yeah, you're gonna start experiencing some real challenges up this road. Definitely two-wheel drives are out from this point upward. And here is an interesting little gully right at the juncture where this road becomes more of a rugged four-wheel drive road. Yeah, this gully, that is another potential approach. We'll test that out at some point. Lot of interesting approaches here. Okay, let's continue up this rugged road. Okay, still ascending here on this road. It's very nice if you're on foot, although it is a pretty steep incline. I run about 5 miles a day during the week. You definitely need to have a base conditioning to handle this kind of altitude gain, and enjoy it. You can handle it maybe and have a rugged time and end up in the hot tub for the next few days with lots of pain. But it's nicer if you're a little more in shape. There's that cliff. Right on the other side of that cliff is the gradual ridge that we ascended last week. And we'll see where that ridge connects with the Upper Canyon ridge between Lee and Kyle Canyon. We'll see it from this perspective very soon. Okay, continuing up this trail, which would be horrendous in a motor vehicle. And by the way, we just passed a sign that said we're in a wilderness area, no motor vehicles allowed. So this is where you got to be on foot anyway. Very nice route if you're on foot. Fairly gradual still, but it's going to get a little more challenging in a bit. And let's see if you can see the upper ridge up there. There you go. That's our goal up ahead. That ridge, that summit. And here we are, about 8,600 feet. Another 400 feet, we will be at 9,000. And we actually like to point out the first bristlecone pine, and there it is, right ahead. Nice. There are probably other bristlecone pines. Yeah, look at all these. Now they're appearing all around us. But bristlecone pines are the marker for closing in on 9,000 feet. You get up to around 10,000 feet, and those are the only type of trees at that altitude. So here, just to give you an idea, there's the Mummy Mountain Cliff area, which will be circling back, potentially, depending on how long it takes us to get up to the upper ridge ahead. Okay, here where a few changes take place. First of all, even if you were allowed to take your four-wheel drive up this hill, this is probably the point at which you would need to get out of your four-wheel drive vehicle and proceed on foot. you can see the upper canyon up ahead there. And here is the very connecting spot right to the left of that rise where I arrived at the North Loop Trail suddenly after ascending this gradual ridge from Upper Lee Meadow last week. And I was looking down from these areas above and seeing the Foxtail Canyon Springs area. And I've got some good shots of that from up on those cliffs. The other side of the cliffs are much friendlier, by the way. Anyway, yeah, for now, we're heading up this direction, and we should be at the Foxtail Canyon Springs shortly. Let's continue on up. By the way, for an even better perspective of what we encountered on the ridge above, which is the gradual approach ridge, we hung to the east or right side of those cliffs up to this point here, hit a gradual section which was very nice, and then needed to we reached a number of additional cliffs, and we circled around the left side at this area, and it's very doable. Nothing beyond class 2. It's really cool to suddenly arrive at the North Loop Trail knowing that we had started in Lee Canyon. But okay, let's continue. Okay, there is the Foxtail Canyon cliff, and there's a cave, beautiful little spring up there, a little Girl Scouts shrine from back when the camp was in operation. There you can see the ridge above, and then circling around, there's that gradual approach ridge that we took from Lee Canyon, Upper Lee Meadow. Here's a great look at that entire ridge, and as you can see, cliffs on this side, which would be the east side of that ridge, and it's pretty easy to circumvent those cliffs by just being on the other side of the ridge and continuing on up all the way to this point, just to the left of that rise, which is where we met up with the Upper North Loop Trail, just a couple miles below Lee Peak. And now we see opening up before us, and you see just the tip of the South Sister on the left, North Sister, and then here's the Black Rock Sister. And then here is the little road that we have been ascending, which we can pretty much officially say is no longer a road. And the reason I stopped here is that, yeah, we could continue this way directly up to the Foxtail Canyon Springs area, but I seem to remember there was a pretty nice little trail right here that heads up the other side of this little ridge ahead, and that was actually, looks like That trail might have been a Girl Scout creation from back when the camp was in operation. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can find that little trail. We were just standing a little ways beyond those bristlecone pines, little baby pines there. And sure enough, here is that old trail, and you can see it's bordered by a row of branches on either side, indicating that yes, this was a thing at one time. So let's continue on up this little trail. And this little trail is continuing. Wow, but what a healthy incline. Let's get a good 360 here. And there you see in all their glory the south, north sister and Black Rock sister. Get a close up here. There's south. And we'll be getting much better views of these. Here is north. And here's Black Rock. Yeah, the first time I ascended this is my second time on this stretch, at least this lower stretch. There's that gradual ridge. More gradual on the other side of the cliffs up here. Yeah, the first time I wasn't totally sure what those mountains were. South, north, and Black Rock sister. Okay, let's continue on up, see what we can see. Okay, incline, definitely substantial, probably 6 inches altitude gain per step. But as you can see, that little Girl Scout trail has turned into a continuation of an old forest road. So yeah, let's continue up. Hard to talk and walk at the same time. 360 degree view. Yeah, we're in the forest, definitely. There's that ridge we were on from Upper Lee Meadow last week. And let's continue up this increasingly steep road. When I took a right down below from that road and began heading up this road right here, which was at first an unmarked Girl Scout trail. Yeah, had I stayed below, I would have been navigating this very steep and angled ridge below. So I think this way that I took is preferable. And there's the upper ridge between Kyle Canyon and Lee Canyon. So definitely closing in. And we're just below 9,000 feet at this point. By the way, it is predicted to be 106 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley today. Right now we're in the comfortable low 70s, maybe even dipping to the upper 60s. And that 106 degree prediction is for the upper Las Vegas Valley in the Centennial Hills area. If you're down in the Henderson area, you can expect to top 110, maybe 111, 12 today. In the meantime, up here, you're going to be in 70 degrees most of the day until your descent. Here's the point where you would angle to the left to go to Foxtail Canyon Springs, and angle to the right and up along this ridge to circle around and continue on up to the upper ridge of Kyle Canyon. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which I'm going to do just yet, but just wanted to point that out. This is a point of decision here. Okay, I decided to work my way up the ridge to the right rather than go to the Foxtail Canyon Springs. Boy, that's a beautiful little spring though. A cave opening, water dripping, little Girl Scout shrine area. Yeah, I'm going to head up this area now and see if I can angle around and find the most gradual approach to the upper ridge between Lee and Kyle Canyon. And there is that other gradual approach ridge that lands you just a couple miles south of, or a couple miles north, I guess, below Lee Peak on the Mount Charleston North Loop Trail. But we are heading up to the summit of the ridge by this route today, and potentially taking a left up at the upper ridge and heading toward Mummy Mountain. We don't know. Maybe we'll just get up to the summit of that ridge and call it a day. Here we go. Oh, by the way, yeah, when you depart the last vestige of a road or pathway, definitely have an idea where you are. Begin looking for signs. I don't operate by GPS, but by just looking around, and there's that gradual ridge, so I know on the way back that'll be on my left. And here are some cliffs ahead that we're going to circumvent going around the right side of these cliffs. So and then there's the Foxtail Canyon Springs through the trees here. So, and then another ridge up over there. I know this doesn't seem like real great directions, but actually when you become familiar with the area and you've got a sense of wilderness navigation, all of this makes sense, and you recognize it whether you're going up or down. These may be my famous last words, but my goal is to end up at this location at the top of that little road on the way back, and then head straight down to the Foxtail Canyon picnic area and back to Lee Canyon Road. So let's see how all that works. Okay, as it turns out, I headed straight up this increasingly steep incline, and there we have to our left the little cliff area with the cave with Foxtail Canyon Springs. May have another name, but that's what I call it. And you could ascend the other side up there. That's a possibility too, and we'll try that at some point. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to ascend right through this opening up ahead. See if I can get on an approach ridge that will take me up to the summit ridge between Lee and Kyle Canyon. We're very close, according to my views, from this more gradual approach ridge that we took last week from Lee Meadow. Upper Lee Meadow. So yeah, we're pretty much on track. Let's continue straight up and pass through this opening up ahead. Look at the opening, and there you can see it advancing right up through the trees there between the rocks. Looks like a very nice opening. Let's see what it's like when we're up there. Continuing up through the opening, and there you see below us, we passed up through this area. One thing, I know I've mentioned it before, but if you're ever in a pretty virgin wilderness area, my policy is to never touch a living plant and do as little disturbance to the ground as possible. You definitely don't want to aid in erosion and in destruction of the environment. This is a very precious area up here. One of the toughest things about ascending to the summit of the ridge between Kyle and Lee Canyon is that if you're doing it in the morning, you're facing the sunrise, and sometimes you're going straight into that sunrise. It blinds you. You can't see around you. You can't see the area ahead too well, and so it makes it a little harder to gauge your route. Okay, let's just continue on up. This is a great little route right here. Okay, the name of the game is pretty much ride this ridge upward and don't stray too far to the left or to the right, because you will have a more sudden downhill. Now on the way back, of course, you could head down in that direction. You're pretty safe still because you've got the gradual ridge. You'll have the gradual ridge to your left on the way down to guide you, and you'll just head straight for, that's Macks Peak between the trees. I mean, not Macks Peak, McFarland Peak is between the trees here. So yeah, just use McFarland Peak as your guiding light here, and on the way back, hug the right side of this ridge as you descend, and you should end up right where you began, where you left that road below. In the meantime, yeah, I'm looking up ahead and I'm seeing what looks like it could be a rock barrier, but we'll see when we get up there further. And then, of course, you can't see a whole lot looking straight into the sun in this direction. And there's the rising sun. Okay, so let's continue up. Definitely a healthy incline. Okay, here we are, continuing to ascend that rather steep approach ridge toward the upper Lee Canyon, Kyle Canyon ridge. And here's that rock barrier we saw through the trees earlier. And the main question is, do we circle around to the left or the right of this barrier? And I'm going to circle to the left at first and see if that looks like there might be a way here. I've been hugging the left side of this ridge on the way up, and that's because on the way back it'll give me a very easy reference point. Just hug the right side of the ridge on the way down and stay fairly close to the center of the ridge, you'll notice, yeah, there are some loose rocks on this ridge. There's dirt and loose rocks, so try to avoid that. And then where you see fallen trees, my policy is never to put your full weight on anything, because there's nothing like having the whole tree trunk come down on top of you. And some of these trees are in a fairly precarious position, just basically wedged in to areas. Some are fairly secure, but others you just don't know. So yeah, don't put your full weight on anything. So heading up here around the left side of this rocky bluff and see if that's going to do it for us. If not, we'll circle around and head around the right side. Here we are at the base of that rocky bluff. There we are looking up. Definitely don't want to go up that way, up the center. But it looks like the thing to do is hug the lower end of this, the lower edge of this rocky bluff, and head around the left or head around the right. And as I mentioned before, we're going to try left first. We are at closing in on 9,500 feet elevation at this point. So definitely we have, this most recent ascent here. Let's see if I can get secure enough footing on this most recent ascent, where I said I was ascending probably 6 inches for every step. This most recent ascent is close to a foot per step, and it's actually it's better than loose rock, because there's pine needles and soil that provides more traction. On the way back, I've got my track spikes that leave very little impression, but give a good hold on this kind of surface, and we'll probably use those on the return trip. But as you can see, just head down this ridge on the return trip. I always like to get an idea of what things look like on the way back. Wow, look at this tree. Yeah, things have fallen. I imagine winters here can be pretty violent with winds and snow. And these gentle giants here reach a point where they just can't stand any longer. We're looking straight at McFarland Peak ahead through the trees. And as I said, McFarland Peak is a great point of reference on the return trip. You'll have to look carefully through the trees, but just descend, hug the right side on the way back. It's the left on the way up, and it'll take you right down to that road. Okay, and onward around this corner. Let's see what the world looks like around this corner. If you ascended the gradual approach ridge from Upper Lee Meadow, you would be navigating right near the top of that ridge up there, maybe a little below at that point, to circumvent some very rocky, cliffy areas. Okay, things are looking good so far. I'm circumventing the left side of this rocky area. Yeah, there is no secure footing where I am right now. So I try to get the best video shots here. But let's see if we can Make a 360-degree turn. I know, you're probably thinking, get a GoPro. But, nope. Not going to do it that way. Okay, so let's continue on up. There, by the way, we're looking at the, Foxtail Canyon. And yeah, if you had tried to ascend below in at the base of Foxtail Canyon and ascend upward, boy, you would hit a lot of barriers. Okay, onward. This ridge is working for us so far. And by the way, I had thought at one time of ascending the far side of that canyon, and you can see that, yes, that presents its problems also. Much steeper than this, so you definitely want to be ascending the ridge above the right side of this Foxtail Canyon below. And I'd say, what is it, to the south? Yeah, the south of that canyon below. This is the way to go if you are wanting to ascend this route. And we still don't know if we're going to get all the way up to the top, but so far things are looking fairly good. This is good news. We've kept the rocky area to our right. We're sending up this direction, and it looks like things are leveling off a little bit, and we'll end up at a saddle up ahead, and then we can just ascend. We're back in the center of Foxtail Canyon Wash, and it is leveling off a bit. I'm looking down below if I can turn on this precarious spot. There you're looking down Foxtail Canyon Wash, and then you're looking at the rocky area over here to our left now on the downward track. And yeah, it is steep, and there are a few logs to climb over. I always look at the ends of each log I put my weight on, just to make sure that both ends of the log are securely wedged in somewhere, and then also look at the condition of the wood. Is it all rotten, or is it secure enough to put some weight on? I still don't put my whole weight on it. And there you can see we're looking straight through to the area we just ascended, hugging the right side of this cliff. And then, of course, on the way down, you do not want to go down the canyon. You want to use this rocky area as your reference and stay high, because I guarantee you, from what I saw, there are some sheer cliff drop-offs in this canyon wash below us. So this ridge is the way to go. Keep the rocks on your left on the way down, on your right on the way up, and hug the center. When you reach this point, it looks like the rocky drop-offs are done. So let's continue on up, and I see a saddle up there. And this saddle is that connector trail along the ridge that I've taken before. I believe it's the saddle between Lee Peak and Madre Mountain, where you just continue on the upper ridge up there. So by the time I hit the summit of this wash, I should be in familiar ground. We'll see. Too much loose rock in that gully. So I'm heading more up the center of this approach ridge. Reach the same location, I believe. We'll see. We are, by the way, just above that rocky area. So on the way back, we're definitely going to want to circumvent with those rocks to the left and the canyon below to our right. But there are probably more than one way to tackle this ridge. This is looking very good, at least the next stretch. Let's continue on up. Okay, back in the gully wash, and it just looks too gradual to pass up, and it does end at that saddle up ahead, which I believe is the summit of the ridge between Lee and Kyle Canyon. We don't know for sure. We'll find out when we get there. But I'm just going to trace my way up this wash, which looks fairly gradual. A little loose rock there, but it looks very doable. So let's do it and just see how that feels. By the way, it's probably good that I waited till this point to go into that gully wash, because there's a little area that might have been a challenge to ascend between those two rocks. On the other hand, I don't see any areas like that up ahead, but you never know. We're going to find out. By the way, whatever you do, do not grab these little plants. You will have needles embedded in your skin, perhaps for months, unless you're able to dig them out. And they tend to appear about this point. Okay, continuing up center of the wash. Things are looking good, as long as you know where the stairs are. Looking back down this canyon, this is the Foxtail Canyon wash here that ends at the Foxtail picnic area. Looking down this canyon, you get a little more perspective where we are. For example, straight ahead, there is McFarland Peak, the one on the left. And then over this way, you can see Macks Peak on the left and the south and north sisters on either side of this tree in the center. So yeah, we are definitely at an altitude where we can begin looking around and seeing things. And if you look carefully down this area, there's a portion of the Bristlecone Pine Trail. So a number of reference points. In fact, that part of the Bristlecone Pine Trail is actually the forest road on the lower Bristlecone Pine Trail. So there you have it. Few reference points as we ascend. Now we're approximately at 9,700 feet, and altitudes can be deceptive in this area. It looks like, oh wow, we're going to be at the summit just in a little bit, but I gotta say that summit of the ridge may be about 11,000 feet, so we may have another 1,300 feet ascent before we reach the summit, which is a lot further than I expected, but hey, we're closing in on it. Okay, still ascending the ridge, and yeah, I just moved a little bit out of the gully. Rock's getting a little too loose. And fortunately, there are a lot of points where you can get back on the ridge, and it looks almost like there's a little pathway up here. So that would be good news to actually have a little route that others have gone on before. Doesn't normally happen in my adventures. And there we are, 360-degree view, and definitely total bristlecone pines all around us. Very beautiful. Yeah, and I think through the trees is, yeah, up there, I think that is Lee Peak, or it's mighty close to it. We don't know. Anyway, yeah, we got to see what's up this way and where it connects to the, and if it connects to the upper ridge of between Kyle and Lee canyons. Well, we've ascended pretty far. In fact, you can see the Bristlecone Pine Trailhead, the upper trailhead, immediately below there. So yes, we have definitely made quite an ascent. And there is McFarland Peak. Good reference points for the return trip. Definitely don't want to get off course. Who knows where you'd end up. And now we can see Lee Peak a little better. There's Lee Peak. So where are we? We could still be 1,000 vertical feet below our destination, that upper ridge between Lee and Kyle Canyon. We don't know. But we're winding our way up this ridge. Yes, it's an avalanche slope, every bit as challenging as the main Mummy avalanche slope, which I call the horrifying half. Only this is like a horrifying 2 miles of avalanche slope. So yeah, we'll just keep on ascending and see where we end up. Hopefully not at the cliffs at the base of Mummy. We want to hit the ridge before we hit those cliffs. And as I look at the ground, it looks a little bit disturbed ahead of me. Maybe I'm not the only one. Could be the only human, but I may not be the only one to take this route. And that brings to mind the idea that, yes, if you go the route that I'm going today, up from Foxtail Canyon, you will not see a soul. So prepare for an entire day of solitude and have everything you need in order to succeed. Okay, onward. This is definitely not a good place to stand, but I just had to get an image of this. Do I dare believe that that blue sky we see above is the summit of the ridge? That'd be another 300 feet or so. And let's do the impossible and do a 360-degree turn here. There is Lee Peak, and there through the trees you see McFarland Peak, and then Macks Peak and the sisters would be over here, but I cannot turn all the way. So yeah, up we go. Definitely approaching the summit of something beyond which we might be able to look down on Kyle Canyon. So this may be the ridge line summit. We don't know. But here's a 360-degree view. And by the way, yes, now we've got a little more perspective. Let's see, identify what we're looking at. That is Lee Peak. And through the trees there is Charleston Peak. So, yes, and things are leveling off slightly. I don't count on that leveling, but I'm going to head up right through this area. We just need to remember on the return trip where to head down, because, wow, if you make a wrong turn on this slope, you end up at a, chances are you could end up at a cliff drop off, and then you're trying to find your way around. There is Upper Lee Meadow below us, so that's a good reference point. And then of course you see McFarland Peak on the left and the sisters to its right. So yeah, there are a few reference points that we can look at now, but let's continue on up. I think I'm going to angle along this way because I've had enough of super steep slopes for now. Okay, great news. We are on the upper ridge right now. And as I mentioned, this is familiar ground to me. I have made the wilderness excursion between Lee Peak and Mummy Mountain. Lee Peak off in this direction and Mummy Mountain in this direction. I remember these rocks, and it's just a matter of ascending this area right up ahead and then continuing on the ridge and working your way over and down to the saddle before Mummy Mountain. And let's see what we can see here. So definitely the view is opening up. And there's Fletcher Peak. And there's Mummy Mountain. And were we to ascend Mummy Mountain, I guess you can tell by now that I'm probably not going to go up to the summit of Mummy today. I'm out of energy for now, but that would be the route on the left side of or the west side of these rocks here, and it's a pretty decent route. The Charleston Loop is below us, way below us, as a matter of fact. In fact, here is Coxcomb Ridge. All these familiar Kyle Canyon places. And yeah, there is Griffith Peak. And here's Harris Mountain. And over this way is La Madre Mountain. And you can see what looks like that permanent snowfield. It's actually a granite, or not granite, maybe limestone cliff. And you can see on the pages for La Madre Mountain where we summited and looked down that that chute. It's a good name for it. The best name I've heard is Devil's Slide. The locals call it that, and have called it that for a long time. Okay, what else do we see from here? Let's just head up this way, because I'm thinking that before too long we're going to see a beautiful view of Charleston Peak. Continuing along this upper ridge, and you see the going's pretty nice on this ridge. You can see me skirting this entire ridge between Lee Peak and Mummy Mountain on the LasVegasAreaTrails.com page for the 4-peak circuit adventure, where I did Griffith, Charleston, Lee, and finally took this route through this high wilderness ridge to Mummy Mountain and then headed back. Being that the car is parked in Lee Canyon, though I don't have that option to head on over and descend into Kyle Canyon, that could be bad. So I got an inspiration though. I am going to head on this familiar route over to the place where the gradual ridge that I took last week begins. If I can find the exact spot, that'll be a kind of a question. But if I can find that spot, I'll head down the gradual ridge, which is much more friendly than going back the way I came here. So that'll make this a bit of a circuit adventure. We'll get better views of Charleston Peak, but you can see through the trees the south eastern ridge of Kyle Canyon, and that stretch between Griffith Peak and Charleston Peak on the South Climb Trail. Okay, let's continue down this nice familiar route and see if we can find that location where we'll descend the gradual ridge back to Lee Canyon. Yeah, I love this ridge. It is a nice high point with an awesome view. By the way, there is Charleston Peak through the trees. And then over to the right, we have Lee Peak. So if you're at all familiar with the North and South Loop Trail for Charleston Peak, you're familiar with all of these sites. And then you can see the ridge between Charleston Peak and Griffith Peak. And that's the, tracing the South Climb Trail. The North Climb Trail is pretty much way below us, but the North Loop Trail and South Loop Trail. By the way, we will connect with the North Loop Trail up ahead here, and that's where we're going to find the gradual ridge and head back down to Lee Canyon. So yeah, a lot of unknowns, but hey, we're pretty familiar with this area, so that does help. And everything just glistens today. Crystal clear, green, beautiful. You just gotta love it up here. This ridge is one of my favorite places in all the world. Look at the bristlecone pines. And it's just really easy, level going. So I'll show you the point at which you want to reconnect with the North Loop Trail for a little bit and then head down that gradual ridge. I hope I've got it right. We'll know really soon. Guess what? We're looking down on what I believe is Mount Wilson in the Rainbow Mountains, and Red Rock Park is on the other side. And one more thing, if you want to see a really cool adventure, I have on the LasVegasAreaTrails.com a circuit adventure for Harris Mountain to Griffith Peak, starting at the South Climb Trailhead and making that circuit down, up to Harris Mountain, and then down to the saddle between. By the way, on the other side of that saddle is Lovell Canyon, and then up to Griffith Peak, and then down the South Climb Trail from Griffith Peak. And I've done it in both directions. It's quite a cool experience. So anyway, yeah, here we are in this pristine bristlecone pine wilderness on the ridge between Lee Canyon and Kyle Canyon. Lee Canyon on the right, down in that direction. Kyle Canyon on the left. Lots of great viewpoints here. Reference points. There, we're looking straight down to the Charleston Village area. And that is, I believe, the trailhead to the North Loop Trail, or Trail Canyon trailhead, that then connects with the North Loop Trail. And wow, look at the rugged landscape here. This is just incredible. You've got the limestone rock face and green bristlecone pine, blue sky. And yeah, we're looking straight down. Over this cliff edge is the North Loop Trail. We're definitely not going down there right now, or even today. But look at this beautiful rock face and these bristlecone pines growing right out of the limestone. And then there's a great shot of McFarland Peak. And Lee Peak. Here's Charleston Peak. And then you can trace your way all the way from Charleston Peak along the South Climb Trail and that upper ridge all the way to Griffith Peak. And there are adventures for all these routes on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. So just name a peak and you'll see, put it into the search and you'll see a lot of options. And just pick one. There's a video on each page and a slideshow that gives the whole story. And there is the north end of the Las Vegas Valley, maybe the mid area of the Las Vegas Valley, we don't know. And then back to Mummy Mountain behind us. And yeah, this is, like I said, my favorite spot in the world. And so I'll probably take a rest up here, lunch break, and then find that gradual ridge back down into Lee Canyon. Yeah, good luck. I didn't mark it. But I would say that it's probably right there. That is the ridge. That's where it begins. And you skirt this side of that ridge for a bit, and then cross over the middle and then over to the other side of the ridge. Anyway, we'll piece it together on the way down. Okay, still on this ridge. And I just happened to look back, and guess what? There is the whole story of how to get up to the summit of Mummy, the main summit area. And you'll notice that right above those trees, and a little bit to the left of them, right in the center there, is the V-shaped canyon that is the final approach to Mummy Mountain. And you can see that on the Mummy Mountain West page of Las Vegas Area Trails, how we got there from Trail Canyon. And you see that band of trees below that canyon. You skirt right at the base of those cliffs and along that band of trees, and then you head upward right at that canyon. And then, yeah, looking around, there you can see Mummy's Head, some real healthy cliffs in that area. And down this way, there is, from right to left, there is Black Rock Sister, right in the center there, North Sister, and South Sister is hidden, but no, you can see South Sister. It's just that Macks Peak in the background pretty much dominates things, so it's hard to tell where South Sister ends, Macks Peak begins. And then you can see over this way, there's McFarland Peak. And then if you look at that ridge line down just to the left and toward us from McFarland Peak, that's the ridge line for the Bonanza Trail. And I do not yet know what those hills are. We'll have to discover them at some point. But there you have a good idea of where we are. And then looking over this ridge, you can see across Kyle Canyon to the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. So there you have it. One of the most beautiful places on earth, right here. Just about 30 miles from Las Vegas Strip as the crow flies. Maybe 40. But I bet, yeah, straight line, about 30 miles. Okay, let's continue onward along this slope, and I'll show you where the North Loop Trail connects. Okay, we've reached a good sign point here. You see straight ahead, this weather station. I used to think it was a ski tower. So you might hear me in earlier videos referring to this as an upper ski tower. Actually, it's a weather station. And as such, I would not touch one of these simply because you don't know if there's an electrical charge involved in that structure. And wow, that would be electrocution. Anyway, yeah, we are getting close to the crossover point where we're going to head down and connect with the North Loop Trail. So this is the sign on the upper ridge of Kyle Canyon, between Kyle Canyon and Lee Canyon. I may not have been clear enough, but when you head down at this marker, you're going to head down to the left, not the right, and you're going to hit the North Loop Trail. So it might be at this tower, it might be a little beyond, but this is the place where you want to connect with the North Loop Trail. And here again is this tower, this weather station. And just to be perfectly clear, yeah, you're looking at Mummy over there. To be perfectly clear, this is where we've just passed that weather station. This is where you angle down to the North Loop Trail, which you can see right through the trees, the Charleston North Loop Trail. Okay, let's go down there, and then we need to find the place where we connect with the gradual ridge back down to Lee Canyon. That should be fun. And here we are on the North Loop Trail. Charleston North Loop Trail. Right here. And normally people start at Trail Canyon Trailhead and head up that trailhead and connect with the North Loop Trail around Coxcomb Peak. There's a junction, and then head up the North Loop Trail, take a left at Coxcomb Peak, and head up the North Loop Trail. And you end up here. But let's say you're coming down this trail, you've made the complete circuit up the South Loop Trail, down the North Loop Trail, and you'd like to take in Mummy Mountain. You've already taken in Griffith Peak, Charleston Peak, Lee Peak, and you want to make it a 4-peak adventure, take in Mummy Mountain. Well, where do you connect with the upper ridge here? The thing is, if you don't connect with this upper ridge and take this nice, beautiful ridge across to Mummy Mountain, but rather you stay on this North Loop Trail, you're going to descend a whole lot until you hit the Mummy Tree down at the North Loop Trail. And then you have this monster avalanche slope, which I call the horrifying half, and you've got to reascend. So let's say you don't want to descend and reascend, just head up this ridge. Now, where is this ridge located? And the weather station is right over the top of this ridge. Where is this point located? Well, here is a little cairn that I created a few years ago. Very inconspicuous, so it's still standing there. No one's taken it down. Hopefully no one will, because this cairn marks the point where you want to ascend to the top of this ridge, where you'll see the weather tower, and then you just stay on this ridge all the way to reach the top of the horrifying half avalanche slope without having to traverse it, and then continue on up to Mummy Mountain, following the directions on the Mummy Mountain West page or the 4-peak circuit page of Las Vegas area trails. So makes for an awesome adventure. So let's go along the North Loop Trail here for a ways and find that very spot where we need to take a right and head down to Lee Canyon. Where is that ridge? We're going to find out. And I think it's the next rise beyond this little dip here. So here we go. Good luck. There you see Mount Charleston, or Charleston Peak, through the trees. And we're on the North Loop Trail. And we just came from this ridge and descended to the North Loop Trail. This is the ridge that spans the distance above Lee Canyon and Kyle Canyon. Now we're looking for the place we descend the gradual ridge down to Lee Canyon. If we miss it, we're in for quite the challenging experience. We don't know where we'll end up. If we, on the other hand, are successful here, and I think we're getting close. If we're successful, then we've got it made. And I think it's right here above this rise. I'm going to go ahead and take this and see if it indeed is our gradual ridge. I think it is. Famous last words. Okay. There's our final 360. And now we're hopefully heading down to Lee Canyon. No promises, but let's just see. We'll know very soon if that's where we are indeed going. I think I ascend just a little further up here. I'm trying to remember where I topped the ridge, the Kyle Canyon, Lee Canyon ridge last week. And yes, I'm thinking it was right up at this point. Could be wrong. We'll know very soon. But we know we do need to get down into Lee Canyon where the car is parked. So let's go ahead and traverse the edge of this slope and see if it will indeed lead us down into Lee Canyon. There's a good sign. You can see the Lee Canyon ski area below us. And we're looking down into Lee Canyon right here. So here we go. Okay, if I am indeed on the gradual ridge, there should be a very, very faint trail. And this may be it. This may be the way that I ascended last week. And so I know that I need to descend fairly close to the summit on the left of this ridge. I'm going to circle around some rocky areas and then hit a very level area if I am indeed in the right spot on the right ridge. We will find out soon. And by the way, I turned right off the North Loop Trail, maybe a little too soon. Ended up circling around this ridge, but and traversing uneven ground. But I do believe I am on the right place right now, which is, could be good news if it's actually true. And that would have been what I saw as I was ascending the ridge last week. And there's that summit. We want to stay below the summit, very rocky, the summit of the descent ridge. And so let's continue on this route right here, and let's just see where things lead. I've got to say, after about a half hour, 45 minutes on this ridge, I totally do not recognize the ridge that I am on. I may have overshot the ridge I needed to be on. We don't know. All I know is that, yes, I will continue over, see if I can hit the center of the ridge and look and see where I am. Hopefully I'll see something familiar. Otherwise, the ridge that I may need to be on is one ridge over to the east, which means this is a totally unknown ridge. We shall see. Okay, that does it. I'm going to head down to where I see a kind of meadow and a gully below and get off this ridge, because it's just not looking really good at this point, unless I see something familiar. But I see nothing familiar from last week. So yeah, we're gonna head down into the gully and see if we can trace our way back down to the Foxtail Canyon area. I decided to give this ridge one more chance before I descended down below, just on the outside chance that I am indeed on the right ridge and this could level off. We don't know, but hey, we're gonna try it and see what happens. Here we go. Okay, still nothing familiar up here. Do not know what ridge I am on, although there below us is the Bristlecone Pine Trailhead, which means this ridge is heading in basically the right direction, and it's just a matter of being able to get down. And there's the Lee Canyon Meadow. So maybe we're on the correct ridge. We don't know. So we'll continue angling around. We're at about 9,800 feet, somewhere in there, close to 10,000. And there's a lot of ground to traverse here before we get down where we want to be. Okay, so yeah, we'll continue on here and see what we can find out. Well, maybe I am on the right ridge after all. There's a very faint trail here. That's the first thing that I've seen that looks at all familiar, and it's leading down to more gradual area, wide area in the ridge, which means that this is indeed the ridge I was on last week. I just skirted it too high. So yeah, let's see, that would be nice. Okay, here is the first thing that I recognize. This is that bench that I sat on last week as I was ascending the gradual ridge. And this is where I met up with some carpenter ants, and I see there's still some wandering around there waiting for me to sit down. Anyway, yeah, we are on the gradual wide section. It's interesting how one can be on the correct ridge, which I was on all along, but not recognize anything. And I must have just been a little bit parallel to the course I took last time, but maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 feet away from it, and everything was strange and unfamiliar. So yeah, this is how people get lost in the wilderness, is they can be on a route that seems very much the same as a route they took on the way. They're on the way back now, and they're totally lost. I'm glad I did not descend into the gully down below where I was almost ready to descend. That would have worked, probably, but we don't know for sure. So now it's just a matter of retracing my steps, knowing that I'm in the right place, and heading back to that water reservoir, then taking a sharp right down to the Girl Scout camp, and then along the road to the Foxtail picnic area and back to Lee Canyon Road. So awesome, we are on course. And here we are at cairn number 1. Cairn number 2 will be the signal to take a sharp left and head down the gully between the cliffs here. Okay, onward. Here we are, cairn number 2, sharp left and down the gully. Here we go. Not too far down the gully, take a hard right and just hug the edge of the cliff here. Let's see if we can do a 360 without heading down the avalanche slope. Yes. Okay. That's better. So I've been hugging this cliff, and the gully is a little bit further ahead, where you take a sharp left and head up, or you take a sharp left and head down. But here we are, skirting the very edge of this cliff. We don't want to go down too far, because what happens then is that you are on a very steep slope. So just really hug the edge of this cliff, and there's enough room. Trust that there's enough room right here to continue right along and skirt the far edge of this cliff on the way down. Here we go. Okay, I'm doing everything wrong on this ridge right now. I skirted the cliffs too high, and so I needed to go down one more section of cliffs. So now I've got to go back up, hug that cliff again, and then go back to the gully, head down a little further in the gully. So here we go. Okay, here we are back at the gully. Now the thing is to go down the next level of cliffs. So here we go. And by the way, we just needlessly skirted that cliff edge. So yeah, and we don't go down this way, definitely, because it ends in a cliff edge. So we need to get below the cliff edge that is right there, and the way is this gully. So here we go. Okay, note to self, these cliffs come in 2 layers or terraces, and I was skirting the upper layer, ended up at a dead end. This is the lower layer, and this is the one that you need. So when you head down that gully, don't take a right too soon. Okay, onward. Okay, I'm hugging the edge, the lower edge of the cliff here, as I was before, only this time I'm on the right layer. So I'm going to put my phone down and continue hugging the edge of this cliff. And by the way, there are the sisters. On the left, south sister, middle, north sister, and that tiny one to the right is the Black Rock sister. Okay, now we can retrace our way, what route we took on the way. There is a building from the Girl Scout camp below, and we headed up a roadway and up into Foxtail Canyon, and then continued on up. We took a right up that ridge. There is a rocky section up there that we circumvented to the left. So we circumvented, we passed between the gully, the wash, and that rocky section, and then we continued on up. We summited somewhere there, and then took the upper ridge, looking at Kyle Canyon on one side and Lee Canyon on the other side, and then came down somewhere in that area straight ahead and just navigated the ridge that we're on. Seems like a lot more navigation this time around than last time. I don't know why. It's like it's a whole different ridge. And so we are continuing down. We should be seeing that green water reservoir not too far into the future. And we'll continue down this ridge to that reservoir, then take a sharp right down into the Foxtail Canyon area, and then back through the picnic area and to where we parked on Lee Canyon Road. So there is a summary of what we've experienced today so far. A lot of dead ends on the way down. I don't remember all these dead ends before, but yeah, there's been a lot of experimentation. This is a ridge I was supposed to be more familiar with. It's going to be a shortcut to turning around and heading straight down the avalanche slope that I ascended up there. I don't know that this has been that much more streamlined, but yeah, continuing on this ridge and looking forward to seeing that water reservoir soon. Okay, there we have ahead of us the maintenance building at the Girl Scout camp, which means that I don't know why I can't get a focus on this. Probably too much interference. With all the trees it's trying to focus on. But anyway, there's the maintenance building, and right in that area is the main dining hall. We're heading down this ridge, and we should be seeing the water reservoir soon. Take a sharp right there and end up down in the Girl Scout camp. So onward. Okay, there's the water reservoir, and we are already angling down this direction to the camp and down to the Foxtail picnic area. So here we go. Okay, here we've just descended that stairway we saw earlier, and we are now at the camp. Here is that main dining hall, Hudlow I think it was. And now it's just a matter of taking these roads back down through the Foxtail picnic area, and then we are where we began, on Lee Canyon Road. What an awesome adventure today. Legendary loop up here. Back at the Foxtail picnic area, and I'm seeing in the distance the first people I've seen all day. Okay, we're almost at Lee Canyon Road. Here we go. And it looks like the actual lower end of that gradual ridge ends right down at the Foxtail Canyon picnic area, right at Lee Canyon Road. So yeah, that'd be another way to go up to the upper Kyle Canyon, Lee Canyon Ridge. There's Mummy Mountain. So here we are. And I don't know why that ridge gave me so much trouble on the way back today, but now here we are, we made it, and it was an awesome day. And here we are back at the beast where we began. So this has been an amazing adventure all the way up Foxtail Canyon to the summit of Lee Canyon, Kyle Canyon Ridge. Then we traced that ridge over to its connector toward Lee Peak, the connector with the North Loop Trail, the Charleston North Loop Trail. And then we took the North Loop Trail to the area that where we found the gradual ridge. And as a matter of fact, you're looking at the base of the gradual ridge. And so we took the gradual ridge all the way down back to this area. So it's been a great circuit. I can tell that I'm going to need to be in much better condition if I'm going to get to the summit of Lee Canyon, Kyle Canyon, that ridge, and then even think of going up Mummy Mountain or up to Lee Peak. I just about ran out of all my energy today, and so definitely need a better base in order to make that kind of experience. But wow, what a day. Doesn't get better than this.